segment. Here we are on Tuesday afternoon, 1 o'clock, just thereafter. I am your host here, Lucas Simmons. We are here for the Tuesday Live, as we do every Tuesday, 1 p.m., focusing on some of those foods and some of those nutrition ways that you can start implementing some ideas if you're looking to support your liver. Now, nothing in what I'm talking about is medical advice anywhere. If you are struggling with liver stuff, first get that checked out. Your liver does like 400 or 500 jobs in the body. This is not something you want to mess with. And while I dearly love food and nutrition, it's not awesome when there's an acute problem. It's really great for long-term and chronic things, but food alone is not the only piece to the puzzle. So this is certainly a great big cornerstone of it. And the way you feed yourself has a really big say in how your liver is going to make it through the day. But I encourage you to go get things checked out first and foremost. Now, when you're ready to start bringing in some fun food and start playing with your food to support all this good action, I'm your girl. Yes. So I'm here on the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, here on Treaty 7 territory, the traditional territory of the Blackfoot people and the Métis Nation of Alberta. So I'm super glad to be here to talk about liver stuff, as we've been doing all month long, right? So today our topic is chasing flavors in order to love up your liver. And I've got 3 points, as I usually do. So let's get into it. So this is going to be recorded, so it will be available on YouTube for those who are watching this live, or it will also remain on the Facebook page for you to retrieve whenever you want to. But I'll tell you the easiest way is to actually just go to the YouTube channel. Where do you find that? Go to my website, lucasimmons.com, and you'll find it through there. Okay, that's nice, Luca, I don't care, just tell me. Okay. If you want to support your liver, P.S., the spring is the season of the liver. It's not by accident that I decided to focus on the liver this month. But if you wanted to support your liver in terms of nutrition and the food piece, it's time for a trim. Can you tell? I start playing with my hair too much when it's time for a trim. Anyway, in terms of supporting the liver, when we're talking chasing flavors, I've got 3 ideas I want to present to you today. So the first one is chasing flavor in order to wake up digestion. And we'll talk about how that relates to the liver in a second. The second piece is chasing bitter flavors and chasing sour flavors. They kind of do 2 different things a little bit, and they're a little bit different. So I want you to embrace both. Okay, chasing flavor in order to enhance digestion. Did you know that one of the biggest contributors to a liver that is having a hard time getting through the day and doing all of the work she has on her to-do list, one of the biggest contributors to her really super huge workload is a digestive system that's not working? So do you have a digestive system that's struggling because your liver is hampered? Well, chicken and egg, which comes first? I think it's the chicken, i.e. the digestion. So when you're not digesting well, your workload for the liver increases. So anything you can do to naturally support digestion is one of those key pieces you're going to want to include in order to take some of the workload off of your liver. Like people keep asking, or talking about, well, I should do a detox, I should do a cleanse. Really? Why don't you actually just take some of the workload off of your liver instead? What? Yeah, when you ask your liver to detox, you're asking her to work harder. She's already been working hard. Why don't you actually just take some of the workload off of her plate? Why don't you work in improving digestion? I happen to have a full playlist on my YouTube channel of a few ideas to get you started. But when you chase flavor, one of the brilliant things that happens, thank you, Mother Nature, and the brilliance that is this evolutionary piece that when you smell garlic and onions, when you walk in the door, you start to salivate and your body gets the triggers that starts in the brain of, oh, garlic and onions. I think it's steak night tonight. Oh God, I love steak. Oh, I better start making some juices into the stomach to make that hydrochloric acid. So when the steak comes, I'll be ready and I can get all the good stuff out of it. Yeah, good idea. When you bring in flavor to your meal, you start to enhance that digestive fire. You turn it on, you turn digestion on by having flavors and things. There's different flavors that trigger a bunch of different things, and we'll get into sour and bitter specifically when we're talking about liver health. But when just, carte blanche, all flavor is only going to help. So don't think that you need to do specific ones for adrenals or your brain or your heart or your whatever. Why don't you just make something delicious? Okay, we're done. That's all. Do not get caught up in the minutia. If I'm making you start to think of minutia, I'm not doing my job right. Yeah. So disordered digestion is that biggest contributor to a digestive fire that's waning. That digestive fire now adds so much work to your liver to have to clean up. So take some of that pressure off, wake up the digestion, add flavors to things. And I often wonder, thinking about this, you got to start thinking about how did things evolve? So up until 100 years ago, things were fairly similar from generation to generation. Like, yeah, things shifted a bit, but up until 100 years ago, if you wanted mac and cheese, say, there was a lot of steps involved. If you wanted a burger, there were a lot of steps involved. You had to harvest the wheat, make the buns, you had to harvest the animal products, the meat and the other ingredients you would want on there. And there would be many different steps involved, and it would be a few hours or a few weeks ordeal, right? It wouldn't just magically show up because you went to the grocery store. Here we find ourselves in 2021 where you can go to a drive-through. It can be 11:47. You're like, I got a meeting at 12:15. I better go grab some food. Yeah, I'm going to need to eat because that's a 2-hour meeting. Crap. Well, there's a so-and-so place down the street. I'll just go pick it up. And by 12:12, you're already sitting and you've already had lunch and you're ready for the meeting. Well, how much of the smelling of the cooking, the turning on of digestion, the getting integrated into the nutrients, into the meal itself, how much are we short-circuiting by opting for the drive-through window? I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm merely asking how much of this turning on digestion are we short-circuiting, are we missing when we kind of go along the lines of how a lot of us eat in 2021? What are we missing? What kind of things are we letting go to the wayside? What kind of things do we say, well, that's less important. I just need to get something in my mouth because I got to go to the meeting. If you don't eat, you don't live. So honestly, I think eating is one of the most important tasks of your day. So could you please get involved in your eating a little bit more? That is perhaps the biggest piece you can do to wake up digestion. Adding flavor sure helps. Yeah, pickles on top of burgers, I think they help because they wake up flavor or they wake up your digestion. Sure. But why don't you actually eat when it's time to eat? Don't do anything else. It's not a multitasking activity. Point number 2, chase bitter flavors. We'll talk about sour in a second. There's a bit of difference between the two. Chasing bitter flavors is one of those ways that you can start to enhance some of the digestive processes where the liver is involved, because liver is part of the digestive system. Liver produces enzymes. The liver makes bile in order to dissipate your fat so you can better get at the nutrients within. It emulsifies your fat. So it makes it easier for your enzymes to get in and get the nutrients from the fatty compounds that you're eating. So your liver makes this bile, right? And bile is your liver's way to bag the garbage and to take the garbage to the curb. It's a brilliant recycling tool. And bile is made of metabolic waste. Your liver makes bile out of the crap you don't need anymore and the crap she just cleaned out. I just want you to marvel at your liver for a second. She's like the ultimate recycler. So bile, when you produce bile, when you eat something that enhances the production of bile, you're bagging up the garbage a little bit faster and you're able to take that garbage to the curb a little bit faster. What helps incite your body to produce bile? Bitter flavors and sour flavors. I remember when I was a kid and I used to do a lot of babysitting, and I've had digestive issues my entire life. Like I won't get into it, but because I talk about it a little too often. So, when you babysat when I was in the 80s and 90s, you'd always get a bag of chips. And often, because the parents were never sure what kind of chips you liked, you would get plain chips. I hated plain chips. I was like, oh my God, please give me something tasty. So I remember babysitting one kid one night and going through the cupboards thinking, ugh, they left me plain chips. Ugh. First world problems, Luca. I know. But I thought, ugh, I gotta doctor this somehow. And I found some vinegar, and I quite like salt and vinegar chips. Even just the thought of it makes me salivate. I would make a bowl of chips, just the plain chips, and I would pour a bit of malt vinegar on top because I love fish and chips and using malt vinegar on fish and chips. And I like even just thinking about it. What if you start thinking about that sour flavor of a vinegar? What goes on for you? Oh, for me, as soon as I would pour it on the chips, j'ai de l'eau à la bouche, comme on dit en français. Like I have water in my mouth is the expression. I would salivate instantaneously. So even just that sour flavor would wake up the digestion that way, but it would also incite the liver to produce bile and to squeeze it out, send it to the gallbladder if you still have one, and then eventually drip down to help access more of the nutrients when you eat a full meal or snack. So bitter flavors and sour flavors too will incite the liver to produce bile. Love that, because that helps your liver take the garbage to the curb. And she wants to do that all the time. So don't tell me about a detox. Why don't you just eat some super lovely bitter flavors and sour flavors when it's the liver's turn to shine, which is springtime, P.S. Oh, if you start to think about it, what are the first green foods that are available outside that people would have gone to forage? So I'm thinking specifically what's in my backyard, rhubarb. Rhubarb is super sour. Sorrel, which is like a perennial, it's a dark leafy green, lots of oxalates, I don't care. Is similar to spinach, but a lemony flavor to it. That's one of the first ones. Chives come up. Lovage comes up, and lovage has a really nice little bit of a bitter flavor to it. Green onions, right? What are those bitter things? Dandelion greens. This is what people would have been eating at this time of year as the first foods that are showing up from the wake up of the winter slumber. Those sour notes happen to show up in the season of supporting the liver. What? When you eat sour notes in the springtime, you're aligning with the wisdom of Mother Nature. You're only going to get high fives from me. How amazing is that? When you start to get in tandem with how the natural world works, all of a sudden it starts to click and work a little bit better. So whatever you can do to align yourself with Mother Nature, like reaching for those sour, bitter flavors at this time of year, will be of benefit. So citrus, if you can tolerate, right? The bitter flavor is going to be in the peel. And when you eat the peel and the pith, they're super bitter, but they'll bring on vitamin C along with bioflavonoids. Bioflavonoids are found in that pith. Bioflavonoids make your vitamin C 10,000 times better, and you get to recycle it and use it even more. Oh, yet another way that vitamin C, P.S., really awesome ally for your liver to do her work. Love it. Oh, maybe eat a little bit of pith. But look, it's really bitter. Okay, so just have a little bit. Or make a tincture with it, or make a tea with just a little bit of that in there until you can tolerate. Yeah. So bile helps you better digest fats. Fats help protect your liver against the damaging effects of toxins in the body and your environment. So please eat sour, bitter flavors. So sour flavors, I want you to think of it a little bit differently. Well, okay, first let's go into bitter flavors briefly. Bitter flavors, I want you to think of citrus, we talked about, endives, radicchio, horseradish. We've got bitter melon, which is a very traditional food that would have been used in African cooking, Caribbean cooking as well, and in a lot of Asian cultures as well. Then you've got cruciferous vegetables, cabbages, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, those guys, that entire family. Amazing sour, bitter flavors. We've also got sulfur compounds in a lot of these foods, which again help support the liver. Cocoa and coffee, totally bitter flavors. What? Look up, but are they good for me? Yeah, they're amazing for you, actually. Cocoa and coffee are very high in antioxidants. They are fermented in order for you to be able to consume them. So they're fantastic allies in small amounts to support your liver and your liver function, if you will. Foods that have a bitter flavor typically help balance blood sugar levels and help support that insulin production. So that's why bitter is really important. When we're talking about sour, it's a little bit different. Sour has a way of helping to move stagnant blood. That's one of the traditional Chinese medicine pieces. So bringing in those sour flavors helps to wake stuff up. I think of smelling that vinegar when I poured it on my chips that first time I did. And boy, did it feel like there's like this pushing through of something that was stagnant for a while. So love that idea. If you think about sour notes in different types of cooking and different cultures around the globe, there's a sour note to just about every cooking method. So vinegars, citrus, fermented foods. But if you're talking about, Middle Eastern cooking, buttermilk, yogurt, you would have had citrus as well. A lot of Asian foods would use fish sauce or lime juice. Worcester sauce is similar. There was another one that I wanted in there. Oh yeah, soy sauce, tamari, those types of things. They totally have that sour note. In Italian cooking, a lot of vinegars, a lot of wine used in their cooking. Olives, what? All really awesome notes. Polish cooking, you'd have vinegars, you'd have a lot of ferments like sauerkraut. You would have in French cooking, there's a lot of use of wine and citrus and vinegars. In the sub-Saharan part of the world, there's a lot of using of tomatoes in cooking, and tomatoes totally have a really acidic flavor and wake up that digestion in that sense. In North America, we will have a lot of native foods to this land. You've got Saskatoon berries that are really quite sour. You've got cranberries and sometimes cherries and raspberries, depending when you pick them. You've got sour cherries. What? It's called sour cherries, Luca. I know. They're all amazing. Cranberries would have been another one here in North America. Sour apples. So you've got lots of different choices here. The wild forage foods that tend to come up, the sour notes in berries, the different types of cooking, and the condiments that would have been used to help flavor their dishes. All of these have a magnificent way of waking up digestion, supporting your liver to do what she needs to, help incite the production of bile, and help keep things moving upwards. That's totally the direction of the spring. So think about that next time you're putting together a meal plan, and think of ways to build these components into your meals, especially if you're looking to support your liver. Now, if this starts to feel a bit overwhelming, I have two options. Yeah, I can help you one-on-one. Yes, I'll drop a link to that for sure. But I've just been building these 4-module courses. They take you through a month of a batch prep item a week. And every week, there's a concept introduced to help support whatever the topic is for that program. And I have one on liver, Lovin staples. We're working in bitter flavors with a bucket of slaw and how to use it in different meals. We're building in pesto for that citrus note and the bitterness of the greens. We're also bringing in a long brew medicinal mushroom and how to build it into using that as a base to make cocoa or hot cocoa, or the hot chocolate clock, as I like to call it, and bringing in some of those really brilliant flavors that support the liver. So if this is something that you would like to take for a spin, I'll drop a link to it below, or you can send me a private message. We'll get you set up. In the meantime, I wish you a delicious week ahead, and go play with your food. Share this with people, only if you like this. Okay, bye.